but I want you to live very healthfully in the future. So gut microbiome testing, I believe, is truly the future of health. And it's something that our conventional medical system is very much missing out on. Hi, Jenny. And so the things that your doctor can do can be very helpful, can be life-saving. But as far as getting to the root cause of your issues, creating health from the ground up, and giving you a lifetime of optimum health, that is not something that the medical system is very good at doing. And so that is what I am doing, right? And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about the gut microbiome, the testing that I do with my clients, and then offer you a solution and a way to work together so that I can support you in this whole process of getting rid of your gut issues for good and living your life healthfully. So how does that sound to everybody? Say hello in the comments. Give me a hashtag replay if you are watching the replay. I want to know who's here, who's watching, who's joining me. And feel free, I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat. So if you have questions about the gut microbiome, about the testing, about what I do with my clients, or just about your specific symptoms or issues, please drop them in the chat. I love for this to be interactive. And I normally have a client right after this training every Thursday, but she is out of town. So I can go a little bit over. If you guys want to stay and have a Q&A afterward, I'm totally happy to do that. So let's share my screen and talk about, first of all, who I am. A lot of you don't know me quite yet, but I am Marissa Hughes. I'm the founder of the Happy Belly Method. And can you see my screen? Let's make sure that works. Hi, Ginger. Okay, looks like you can see my screen. So the Happy Belly Method is the method that I developed over, after 35 years of having my own awful gut issues, having leaky gut, constipation. I honestly felt like I was going to throw up all day, every day of my life. I had anxiety, acne, bloating, you name it, I had it. And the medical system was not helping me. I had one doctor tell me I must just be defective. And so I went down a very long road of fixing my own issues, and then decided to go back to school, get certified. And now I help other women to do the same thing. And I have many, many, many wonderful clients who have now what I have, which is gut freedom. And I call gut freedom the ability to do anything that you want to do at any point in time without worrying about what your gut is going to do that day. So give me a freedom in the comments if that is something that you are looking for. Like, you want to just be able to do what you want to do every day, right? And I know so many people that are like, well, I can't do that. I can't meet you out, or I can't go on vacation, or I can't do this because I might be running to the bathroom, or I might be throwing up, or I might get such massive heartburn, or whatever it is, your gut issues are holding you back. And this is what I want for you, the gut freedom. And so there is a very specific way that we need to go about this. And that is what I have built my program around, the Happy Belly Method. It's based on these 4 pillars. All 4 of these pillars, we want to be at as close to 100% as possible. That's how you achieve gut freedom. You want to get optimum nutrition, balance your gut microbiome, and that's what we're talking about today. You need to detox your body of toxins. Might be 30, 40, 50, 60 years of toxins built up in the body. Get rid of those in a very safe manner. And then make sure your gut-brain connection, your nervous system, is on point. And the world that we live in today is not conducive to having a nervous system that is calm and working. And if your nervous system is always in that fight or flight mode rather than rest and digest, then your body doesn't have the ability to heal, and your digestion really is not going to work. So that is a big piece that is lacking in our medical system and in the conventional ways that people go about their health issues. So really looking at all 4 of these pillars and making sure they're as close to 100% as possible is how you're going to get that gut freedom. If one pillar is depleted, then your health home crumbles. So if maybe you have really good nutrition, maybe you eat a really healthy diet, but if you still have symptoms, something else is going on. So many of you say to me, I'm so frustrated because I've been eating healthy. I've cut out all these foods. I've changed my diet. I don't eat a bunch of crap anymore, but I still don't feel good. And this is why, because one or two or three of your other pillars might be very lacking. So we get all four of those pillars built back up, and that's when you get a happy belly. So here are some common gut-related symptoms. Now, some of them are obviously connected to the gut, like bloating and heartburn and indigestion and loose stools and constipation, but also things that are connected to the gut are brain fog, food intolerance, joint pain, any kind of skin issues. Like I had terrible acne for so many years. I was just talking to a client of mine before this, and I went to dermatologist after dermatologist to doctor, and they all just gave me topical creams, told me my diet had nothing to do with my skin. That doesn't matter if I changed my diet or not, my skin issues were going to be the same. And believe it or not, I changed my diet, I sealed up my leaky gut, and I haven't had a breakout since. And my skin, in fact, is better today at 45 years old than it was at any point in my 20s. Anxiety, insomnia, depression, ADHD, mood swings, everything that has to do with the brain and the mind and that gut-brain connection, the nervous system, all of that can stem from gut-related issues. Hormonal imbalances. Your hormones and your gut are like best friends. They are holding hands all the time. So we need to get that connection really strong. Of course, nausea, vomiting is related to the gut. Belly fat and weight gain. There are numerous studies coming out right now about the connection between specific strains of bacteria and weight gain. And they took specific bacteria from a thin mouse, put it into a fat mouse, and vice versa. And the thin mouse got fat and the fat mouse got thin, same diet, just by giving them these different bacteria. So fascinating studies are coming out right now. So basically what I'm trying to say here is every single thing in the body is related to the gut. Everything. Hippocrates, who's the father of medicine, said all disease begins in the gut. And that is almost 100% true. There are 1 or 2% of diseases that truly are genetic and cannot be changed at all. But everything else can come back to the gut and can be improved by improving the gut, and specifically improving the bacterial balance in your gut. So what is the microbiome? I know that you've probably heard this word, and you probably know that there are, bacteria living in your gut, but it is really a collection of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other organisms that colonize your GI tract. And it's termed the gut microbiota and has co-evolved with humans over thousands of years. So we have this intricate, mutually beneficial relationship that started thousands and thousands of years ago, and we have co-evolved together. And the number of microorganisms inhabiting your GI tract has been estimated to be 10 times more bacterial cells than you have human cells in your body. So we actually are more bacteria than we are human, which is kind of crazy to think about. We're actually like the bacteria we could think of as its own separate organ, because it is such an important piece of everything that happens in our body. Our gut microbiome really is involved in just about every single process that happens in our body. So taking care of those bacterial cells is paramount in making sure that your human cells are healthy. And so what are the roles of the gut microbiome? All these organisms that live in your gut. They take your food that you eat and harvest the energy from it. You really truly are what you eat. You really truly are building every little human cell of your body out of the food that you eat, which is super important. And your gut microbiome helps to take all that food and harvest that energy from your food. It regulates the immune system. So most of your immune system lives in your gut. And so when we think about protecting ourselves from not only colds and viruses and things like that, but other invaders that come into our body, because we have toxins coming into our body all the time. The immune system is what protects us. And if we don't have a strong microbiome, the immune system is going to be weak, And then all these things that are coming into our body now start to take over and create inflammation and toxicity in our cells. But if we just regulated our bacteria to improve our immune system, now it'll start protecting us from all these toxins that come in and out. Balancing hormones. So this is a little known fact. When people are looking at their hormones, they look too much with blinders on, and they test their hormones and then replace them, let's say. But what we really need to be doing is improving our gut bacteria. Our gut bacteria has a huge role in making sure our hormones are balanced. Strengthening the gut lining. So if you have not seen my leaky gut workshop, comment leaky gut in the comments. If you only watch one thing of mine this entire year, I encourage you to watch that leaky gut workshop. It's 3 days. There's also a leaky gut quiz, so you can see where you are on the spectrum, because we are all on the spectrum. But strengthening that gut lining will improve just about every issue that you have in your body. I promise you. And your gut microbiome is your first line of defense against leaky gut. So if we don't have the good microbiome, that very thin gut lining is going to start to get compromised. Protection from pathogens. So if you think about your gut like a parking lot, you want to fill all your parking spaces with good guys, right? And if all the parking spaces are filled with good guys, there's no room for the bad guys to come in and park. Now, if we wipe out some of the good guys, then we leave parking spaces open, and now pathogens have room to get in there and start to grow. And so we need all the good guys in there. It's like having an army, and you want to have your army really strong to protect you from the things that are coming into your body. It's pretty cool to think about like this whole jungle of protectors that you have living inside you all the time. And all you have to do is take care of them, and they will take care of you. I think it's pretty awesome. Reducing inflammation is a huge, huge part of the gut microbiome. What the gut microbiome does, the bacteria ferments the food that you put into the body, in particular fibers. And I say fibers because there are many, many different kinds of fiber, not just one. They take that and they turn it into what's called short chain fatty acids. You might have seen this somewhere, SCFA, short chain fatty acids. And these go out. These are the guys that go out into the body and do all the big jobs. And one of the biggest jobs that they have is reducing inflammation. And so if you have inflammation in your body, you can take all the anti-inflammatory things that you want to take, but you're not addressing the root cause, which is getting the good microbiome to take the food and turn it into short chain fatty acids. Once you do that, that is truly how you reduce inflammation in the body. And then communication with the brain. So the gut microbiome is what controls how your brain and your gut talk back and forth to each other. Neurotransmitters, right? So you probably have heard of serotonin, your happy hormone. That is made in the gut. And we need neurotransmitters to send that serotonin up to your brain. Your brain and your gut talk back and forth millions of times a day. We need that connection to be strong, and we need our gut bacteria to make that connection strong. And so problems arise when the delicate balance of bacteria is disturbed. If you hear me use the word dysbiosis, that means the balance of bacteria is disturbed. So only a small percentage of bacteria is quote unquote bad, but even in that small amount, they can live in your body and they can actually be beneficial. When they start to get overgrown is when they become quote bad. And so they work symbiotically together. All these different bacterial families and species, phylum, they work together, and it is a delicate balance. When that balance gets disturbed, that's called dysbiosis, and it can cause just about any problem that you might be experiencing and things that are surprising to people. And there is research that suggests that your bacterial makeup in your gut could be linked to asthma, autism, autoimmunity, cancer, cardiovascular disease, celiac disease, diabetes, eczema, heart disease, IBS, IBD, malnutrition, multiple sclerosis, and obesity. Now, this might be very surprising to people. And of course, more research is always coming out, and we can't say this for sure, but it does suggest that these things do have a correlation. So it's not just about, are you pooping properly or not? That's what a lot of people think that probiotics and bacteria do, is just help you poop. It's about so much more than that. So what makes up your microbiome and why would it be better or worse or in balance or out of balance? So number one, being born C-section is one of the main reasons these days why people have a microbiome that is lacking in good bacteria, because when you're born, the baby's mouth goes through the vaginal canal, it turns right at the end and scoops up all that bacteria. And that's how we populate our gut with bacteria. And so, there are ways that the doctors can make up for this, like swabbing the mother, the vaginal canal, and then swabbing inside the baby's cheeks, things like that. Doctors, unfortunately, are mostly not doing that. So some of these kids are born behind the 8 ball already because they have, only 40% of the microbiome of a child that was born vaginally. Antibiotics, and, most of us were raised in the era of like handing out an antibiotic for every single thing you walk through the door for, right? Handing them out like candy. And still today, doctors do that. Now, antibiotics are life-saving in certain situations, but in many situations, they're not necessary. And every time we take an antibiotic, we're wiping out more and more and more of our good bacteria, along with the bacteria we want to kill. But you might never recover that bacteria unless you intentionally do it. And unfortunately, they don't help you intentionally rebuild that bacteria. So the home environment, toxins in the home, chemicals in the home, diet from childhood to adulthood. I had a pretty terrible diet. Like, raise your hand if you were raised on like mac and cheese and Hot Pockets and what else did you eat in the 80s and the 90s, right? Like all that fat-free food, all of that stuff. When we're kids, that will cause leaky gut and affect us into our old age. So we really need to remedy that. It's okay that we had that diet. Like, there's nothing we can do about it now, but we can go back and remedy some of those things. Every medication is going to affect your microbiome. Of course, drug and alcohol abuse is toxic to the microbiome. Stress is probably the most overlooked one. We live in a stressful environment these days. It's really hard to not live in a stressful environment. So we need to intentionally get our body out of stress to make sure that we can replenish that. Every time we travel, every time we get on a plane, every time we go to a different environment, we're changing our microbiome. We're eating out. We're not in our normal sleeping pattern. We're in hotels. We're in all these other places, and that is going to change your microbiome. Lack of sleep. Like, your microbiome is alive and it works on a circadian rhythm just like we do. The circadian rhythm is basically the rhythm of the sun. The sun comes up, you're awake, the sun goes down, you go to sleep. And if you don't get good sleep, your microbiome is going to be all out of whack. So lack of sleep is a huge one. Lack of nature. People are not getting out into nature enough. And when they do, they're like covering every single inch of their body. So we can't even get the good bacteria. You might have seen my post in the group this week about when you go out to garden, try and garden without shoes and gloves. You get all of that good bacteria from all that dirt that you're digging in. And then over sanitization. Well, clearly since 2020, we are obsessed with getting rid of every single little tiny bit of bacteria in our existence. But guys, bacteria is good. If we over sanitize, we are totally killing off our good microbiome. So those are a few ways that over the years, I think we're all kind of the same-ish age group now. So we've lived many decades and this stuff just happens, right? So we just need to figure out what has happened to our specific microbiome and improve it. So what's the simplest way to know if you have gut dysbiosis? Looking at your poop. And we talk a lot about poop in this group. It's okay. You can talk about it. I talk about it all the time. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. But if you are not a type 4, snake, smooth, soft but not too soft, formed, long, good size, not too thin, then there's probably some gut dysbiosis. And so loose stools, constipation, not going every day. A lot of doctors will tell you don't have to go every day. I'm here to tell you, you got to go every day. But you don't want to go too many times a day, right? 1 to 3 times of that formed bowel movement is ideal. If you don't have that, there's probably some dysbiosis going on. So that's just the easiest way to tell. Of course, that doesn't give you any more information about what's going on. Sometimes we can glean information from it, but that is the easiest way to tell if there's some gut dysbiosis. So what is the old way of improving the microbiome? Take a random probiotic and hope for the best, right? Like maybe you even get it from the grocery store. Please don't throw your money away on cheap probiotics. First of all, it's like, that would be like, what did I say before? It'd be like sprinkling some salt in the ocean and hoping that it gets saltier, right? Like it's not really going to help anything, and you might be throwing your money away. Unfortunately, supplements are not regulated, and so they don't even have to have in them what they say on the label. So finding a company that you trust, first of all, is most important. But second of all, if you don't test your gut microbiome, you might be putting random strains of probiotics in there that you don't need, that might even be doing more harm than good. Ginger says, how do you know what the right sanitation balance is? So the thing about sanitation is, if you have something like raw chicken, yes, you want to use something that will kill bacteria. But for the most part, you don't need to kill bacteria. We've been living millions of years with bacteria, and it's good for you. And so if you have a strong microbiome, even if you did come into contact with salmonella from chicken, your strong microbiome would fight it off. So rather than over sanitizing and killing your own microbiome, you want to build your microbiome so that it can withstand anything that comes its way. So if you don't sanitize everything in your house, you do go work in the garden with all that bacteria, it's only going to be good for you to have all that bacteria, because you want your jungle to be as diverse as possible. You want your jungle to have every kind of plant known to man in it. That's the way it's going to work best in your body. So every time we sanitize, especially if you're always sanitizing your hands, like you have more bacteria on your thumb than all the people that live in London. And every time you're taking away all that bacteria, you're depleting all of the good things that bacteria is meant to do. So I hope that helps. So the old way is just taking a random probiotic, hoping for the best. This is the happy belly method of improving the microbiome. So we test your microbiome. It's a simple at-home stool test. It's not fun to do. You got to take a little scoop of your poop and put it in an envelope and mail it back in. But it really is super simple. And then when the test results come back in, I meet with the lab. It's called Microbiome Labs. They are on the forefront of science about the microbiome. Like Kiran Krishnan is our founder, and he is the most prominent expert in America. If there's another one, I wouldn't know. He is absolutely brilliantly amazing, and the whole staff at that lab is brilliantly amazing, and they want to get to the root cause, and they want to help you actually get better and not just put Band-Aids on your issues. So I meet with the lab for an hour. We go over your health history, what is going on with you. We put on our little detective hats, and we go through your whole test results with what is going on with you, and we start to link things up. Like, this is causing this is causing this. We need more of this, less of this. We need to balance this. And then I put together a whole personalized protocol for you: foods, supplements, specific probiotics, different behaviors that we can do. And the protocol that needs to be done, and it needs to be done in this order, is called weed, seed, feed. So if you have a garden, right, you wouldn't go out and leave all the weeds in there and just plant more stuff on top of it, right? That is what basically just taking a probiotic is. You're just planting everything over the weeds. Well, that's not going to be a very good garden, right? And so we need to take out the weeds. So looking at your test results, we can see in there what we don't want in there that might be overgrown. So we weed the garden first. And that is a specific length of time. It's a specific process. We weed the garden. We target any pathogenic bacteria or viruses or other toxins that are in there. Then once we get past that step, then we seed the gut. So we seed the gut with spore-based probiotic strains that are missing. We can see on your test which ones are missing and which ones we need to put in. And then we feed them. So this is another thing that's missing. if you take a probiotic, it goes in your gut and it goes out. So you have to take it every day. It's going to cost you money. If we really rebuild your garden, seed it with the appropriate strains, and then feed those strains the proper foods, they will actually take up shop and live in your body and be one of your little protectors for the rest of your life if you take care of it. But if we don't do the weed, seed, feed protocol in the right order, then you're going to go back to having that depleted microbiome again. So it is a very specific process, and I work with you and support you on this whole process. So some of the things that we look for specifically on the test, number one is number and diversity of bacterial species in your gut. So this is a healthy US sample. So we want to be up here at the top, right? We don't just want to be sort of normal. We want to be optimal. Most of my clients that I test are down here below, quite a bit below what we consider to be healthy or normal. This is the number of bacterial species that we test for. So getting this number up into the normal range and really up to the top is ideal, but not only getting the number up, but the diversity. So if your whole jungle was the same 3 plants, it wouldn't be that exciting, right? But if your jungle was like all these different little flowers and shrubs and trees and everything else, like that is ideal. And that's what we want to do with your gut, the diversity. And then the other thing that we look for is the overgrown pathogens. And so we can see in your gut, like these guys are all pathogens and they're living in abundance in the gut microbiome. If we have, 1, 2, 3% of your gut microbiome is pathogenic, that's not good. So we need to weed those out first before we start to feed, seed and feed. And then the other thing is we can see specific lacking or missing strains. We can see here, for instance, Akkermansia is one of your most important strains. They're all important because they all have big jobs, but Akkermansia specifically protects you from leaky gut. If you have no Akkermansia, like we can see this person here has 0 Akkermansia, that is a very, very, very good sign that your gut is very leaky, and we need to build up the gut, but then we need to seed you with Akkermansia and then feed the Akkermansia so that it starts to repopulate your gut and protect you from leaky gut. Then there are many, many, many other markers that we go through. You might have high histamine production in your gut. You might have a lot of inflammation, leaky gut, lack of stomach acid, malabsorption of certain things, reduced vitamin production. You actually do create B vitamins and K2 in your gut, and hormone recycling. We can see if your body is recycling hormones properly. So there's so much that we can look for on these tests. It's not just about the bacteria, but it's about all the functions, the functionality of how your gut is actually working as well. And so my clients are usually very surprised at the results that they can get because we stop guessing about what to do. We test, we know what to do, we can see a clear picture, and then people become regular for the first time in their lives. They get rid of eczema. They lose weight that they've been holding on to for their whole lives that they could never lose. They're able to eat pizza again without suffering. They're not bloated anymore and regular again. Like I have hundreds of these testimonials because we actually get to the root cause, rebuild your health from the ground up. And that's when you really see true lifetime health. So if you want help with your gut microbiome and you